when we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, and many of the times we see different personalities are described, they take incarnation as one personality. So how do we understand this concept?
They incarnate as one personality. Matlab, what I understand is you are saying that a person is a combination of two personalities.
Yes.
Isn't it? Yeah, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it is described. Sometimes somebody is the combined incarnation of Brahma and Prahlad Maharaj. Somebody is described as incarnation of Vishaka Devi and Arjuna, etc. How do we understand this? Actually, there are a couple of things which we have to understand. One is that in our current material conception, we are limited by time and space. One person can occupy a given space at any given point of time. This means if I am here today, I am sitting on this asana today, at this moment, I cannot be in another place at the same time. Another thing is that if I am occupying this asana, nobody else can come and sit here unless you push me out. Isn't it? Somebody wants to, very eager to sit on the asana, you come and push me, I'll step out and somebody can come and sit. Otherwise, it's not possible. So, this is the limitation of time and space upon conditioned living entities. When it comes to liberated souls, when it comes to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as well as his pure devotees, when they incarnate on this earth, they are not limited by time and space. Actually, anything spiritual cannot be limited by time and space because time and space are material elements. Therefore, their action is present on this material manifestation only. It's not on the spiritual world. As we all know, that the 5 great elements, Mahabhutas, Pancha Mahabhuta, they are Bhumi, Rapo, Analo, Vayu, Kham. The earth, water, fire, air, and space. So, space is one of the Mahabhutas. It is one of the elements of this material manifestation. In the spiritual world, the material space is not there. There is spiritual space there. And there is a difference between material space and spiritual space. Material space limits people. Like I described, time and space limits us. We can be only in one place at any given point of time, and only one person can be in that place. It cannot be multiple people. This is the characteristic of, limiting characteristic of material space. When I say that I can be on this asana only at this particular point of time, then what it means is actually that my body can occupy this material space and time at this given point of time. So my body can occupy this asana at this given point of time. Nobody else's body can come and occupy. And my body cannot be in some other place at this same time. So the limitation is on my body. Actually, spirit soul is not limited by time and space. Even within this material body, there are some yogis who overcome the limitations of time and space. And so, they are able to transport themselves from one location to another location. Some yogis, what they do is they take a dip in Haridwar, in Ganga. And when they get up, they'll get up in Prayag. They overcome the limitations of space. They are able to travel at very high speeds, unlike today's aircraft and other travel equipment, which can take us at some few miles per hour. From this, what we can understand is, as a person gets more and more liberated, the influence of time and space keeps reducing. Therefore, in the case of incarnations of the pure devotees because they are not limited by time and space. Two people can occupy the same space at the same point of time. We have to understand this from the perspective of theoretical understanding only. Practically, if you try to understand, it's not possible. Because our current experience is all within this limited framework of this material manifestation. We don't have experience of the spiritual world. We have forgotten. That's why we are in this conditioned, we are conditioned souls in this material world. So, the pure devotees, because they are not limited by time and space, two people can occupy the same space at the same point of time. And pure devotees are not limited by time also. They can carry out activities like we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam also, many places. There are kings who ruled for thousands of years and still they were unaffected by old age, whether it is Dhruva Maharaj and all such personalities. So, the influence of time fails to act upon pure devotees. Similarly, the limitation of space also doesn't have its influence on the pure devotees. So, in that sense, when we look at it, we can understand how two people can occupy the same space at the same given point of time. And that's how personalities like combination of personalities is possible. Another way to understand is that when we look at incarnations of the pure devotees, when it is said that Vishakha Devi incarnated as Ramananda Raya during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, or Prahlad Maharaj or Brahmaji incarnated as Haridas Thakur in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, or Yashodamai and Nanda Maharaj incarnated during Krishna's advent 5,000 years ago. It doesn't mean that those personalities become absent from the spiritual world during this time. When Krishna came 5,000 years ago on this planet, it doesn't mean that Krishna was not present in Goloka Vrindavan. And when Yashodamai and Nanda Maharaj came here, when Krishna came, it doesn't mean Yashodamai and Nanda Maharaj were not present in the spiritual world. So, whenever the Lord descends into this material world, it is called avatara, incarnation. Krishna personally incarnates into this world, and then Krishna's expansions also incarnate into this material world. Krishna personally incarnated 5,000 years ago, so it is Krishna himself. When Krishna's expansions incarnate into this material world, we have Purusha avatars, we have Leela avatars, and all the other kinds of Amsha avatars, Shakti Avesha avatars, all the 6 kinds of avatars, they get incarnated into this material world. When Narasimha Dev incarnates, we understand that he is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So, such incarnations who come into this material world come through the second Chaturvyuha Sankarshana. So, the incarnations when they come into this material world, they are simultaneously, their original forms are continued to be present in the spiritual world. So when Krishna comes to this material world, Krishna continues to be in the spiritual world. It is only his incarnation who comes into this world. However, such an incarnation of Krishna is not different from Krishna himself. Similarly, when the pure devotees, whenever Krishna descends, Krishna does not come alone. He comes with all his parshadas, all his near and dear ones. They also come into this, they also incarnate into this material world. So, Yashodamai and Nanda Maharaj also incarnate into this material world. Their original personalities continue to remain in the spiritual world. So, in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, we understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna and Radharani combined. So, that is also two personalities combined, isn't it? Two personalities combined, Krishna and Radharani. But Krishna and Radharani continue to remain in Goloka Vrindavan, while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is manifested as a separate personality. Therefore, we have to understand that in a similar way, when the pure devotees also incarnate to participate in the Leelas of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the original personalities remain in the spiritual world, but the personality as whom they are incarnated to take part in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there they can combine together. That means we also understand how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combination of Radharani and Krishna. He is Krishna himself taking on the mood of Radharani. Similarly, we can have Prahlad Maharaj incarnating as Haridas Thakur, taking on, or Brahmaji incarnating as Haridas Thakur, taking on the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. Constant, like Prahlad Maharaj was constantly chanting the Krishna's holy name whenever Hiranyakashipu was torturing him. So his mode of worship was Smarana. Similarly, Haridas Thakur, if you see, constantly was doing nothing other than chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So he is in the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. So these are multiple ways in which we can understand how personalities combine together to incarnate into this material world. So whenever they incarnate, the original personalities are still there in the spiritual world. At the same time, in this material world, their incarnations may combine, take on the mood of another personality, and all these combinations are possible. So that's how we can understand. Is that okay?
So we should understand that one devotee has incarnated in that. So one is the body and the other is the mood, like this, Prabhu?
Not exactly like that, because when we say body and soul, they are two different entities and they are of two different categories. We can separate the soul from the body. Correct, na? We can separate the soul from this body. The soul can take on multiple bodies. We can think like that. But when it comes to devotees incarnating or Krishna incarnating, when Krishna incarnates as Matsya Avatara, Kurma Avatara, etc., Krishna is personally present, and those personalities are also individual personalities. They have their moods, they have their exhibition of their pastimes. Like Lord Ramachandra when he came, he is non-different from Krishna because he is an expansion of Krishna, he is an incarnation of Krishna. At the same time, Lord Ramachandra has his own personal mood. He is Ekapatni Vrata. All the 16,000 sages, when they approached Lord Ramachandra in Dandakaranya and requested him that you are being served so nicely by Sita Mata, we also want to become your wife so that we can also serve you very nicely and intimately. Then Lord Ramachandra said, I am Ekapatni Vrata. I cannot take more than one wife. So your desire will be fulfilled when Krishna descends in Dwapara Yuga. And that is how all the 16,000 sages became the 16,000 queens in Dwaraka. So, although Lord Ramachandra is not different from Krishna, but still he does not display all the powers and madhurya and all the features of Krishna. He has a certain scope of his pastimes and his mood. And accordingly, his devotees also manifest the same kind of pastimes. So, it doesn't mean that Ramachandra and Krishna are one personality. They are two personalities, two different personalities, while at the same time they are the same person. How do we understand this? This is called Achintya. This is the inconceivable power of the Supreme Lord, that he can manifest himself as individual separate personalities while at the same time continuing to remain the same. So whether it is Narayana, whether it is all the 16,000 forms of Krishna himself which Narada Muni saw. When Narada Muni came to Dwaraka, he saw that Krishna was individually present in each of the 16,108 palaces of his different queens. So when Narada Muni saw that, he was astonished. Why he was astonished? Because each of them was separately Krishna himself. How do you understand this? That's the inconceivable power of the Supreme Lord. He is capable of doing anything. So like the Supreme Lord is capable of manifesting himself as separate individual personalities, while all of them are the same personality, the same thing applies for even the pure devotees also. They have their original Swarupa in the spiritual world, and they themselves incarnate into this material world. There is no difference between the two of them. They are one and the same. At the same time, They are two individual personalities. So, the Yashodamai's incarnation into this material world will always be with Krishna wherever Krishna is performing his pastimes in this material manifestation. Whereas Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, he is there, Yashodamai is there with him also. So that's what I said, that the personalities in the spiritual world are not limited by time and space. They can manifest themselves individually as separate personalities, while both of them are the same. So this is the inconceivable power of the Supreme Lord. That's how we have to understand. Is that okay? Difficult to understand. Don't worry. When you go back to the spiritual world, you will understand. So these are the achintya khalu ye bhavaha tam starkena yojet. This is what Shastra says. Something that is inconceivable cannot be understood by logic and reasoning. You have to accept it, that this is the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Inconceivable means we cannot understand it with reasoning and logic. So no matter how much I try to understand it with reasoning and logic, it's not possible. Because our intelligence is very limited. Our intelligence can comprehend only certain things, very small, finite number of things only the intelligence can comprehend. For example, the concept of eternality. How the soul is eternal. Very difficult to comprehend, because our understanding is everything is born at a certain point of time and it is finished at a certain point of time. So we are part and parcel of Krishna. Eko Bahusyam. Krishna wanted to become many, to enjoy different kinds of relationships. And that's how he expanded as all of us. When we hear that, our first question is, when did Krishna expand into us? So Krishna expanded into his eternal part and parcel living entities means at some point of time Krishna was there, we was not there, and then Krishna expanded. So what is that point of time? Shastra says there was no point when we did not exist. Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita that there was no point of time when you were not there, when I was not there, referring to Arjuna. When you were not there, when I was not there, when all these kings were not there. So that means the soul is always existing. At the same time, the soul the soul is expanded from Krishna. So it is eternal also. At the same time, the soul has come from Krishna. So you cannot. It is very difficult to understand this, because in our understanding, when we say anything has come from something, there is an emanation of something from something else, then there has to be a finite time when it has happened. But in the case of spirit souls, the spirit souls are eternally like this. And at the same time, they were eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Lord like this. So it's a very difficult concept to understand. Therefore, we have to simply understand that by reasoning and logic, it is not possible to comprehend these things. Therefore, they are called achintya, inconceivable aspects of the absolute truth. Yes, please.
Prabhu, one thought that comes is because these devotees are incarnating to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah.
So why not they take two different bodies itself? Why they are coming in one body? Because in two different bodies they can serve much better.
That is their sweet will. Why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has to be combined Radha and Krishna? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also can be two personalities. Why combine? Combining because they want to understand the mood of the other person. Krishna wants to understand the mood of Radharani, so Radharani and Krishna combine together. That's our understanding, isn't it? So similarly, other personalities also may be like that. That they want to understand the mood of the other person, so they combine together. Or actually speaking, ultimately, all the pure devotees, they come for giving pleasure to Krishna whenever he performs his leelas. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also comes, the different personalities want to come and participate in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's leela, and they want to give pleasure to him. And therefore, to give pleasure to him, two personalities may combine. Two or more personalities may combine to form a single personality who gives pleasure to Krishna, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in that way. Ultimately, everything is subservient to the desire of the Supreme Lord. Krishna wants to enjoy as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Radharani and Krishna want to enjoy as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then all other pure devotees also take on different incarnations to satisfy that desire of Krishna and Radharani. Therefore, the whole reason, fundamental reason for the different personalities to combine and incarnate is to give pleasure to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in that particular mood as when Krishna comes in the mood of Radharani. That's how we have to understand. Okay, so that's the underlying. If we want to look for a reason, the only reason is the pleasure of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Is that okay? Anybody else? Anything else? Yes, please.
In all the acharyas, bhajans, Prabhu, and in also many of the Prabhupada's purports and translations, there is repeatedly this word is repeated, that is unmotivated devotional service. Unmotivated devotional service. So, like, can you define what is motivated devotional service and unmotivated, and how can we achieve the unmotivated devotional?
Ahaituki, that is the Sanskrit word used for unmotivated devotional service. Ahaituki bhakti. Hetu means cause. There is some cause behind some activity or whatever you want to take, some effect. So that's called hetu. For this purpose, I am doing this. Like in Hindi we say, is hetu ye kar rahe hain. That means for this purpose, I am doing this. Ahaituki means there is no purpose for performing devotional service except the pleasure of Krishna. Meaning, I don't have any purpose to be served for myself in performing that devotional service. I am not performing devotional service to Krishna to get some material benefit. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, initially when he performed devotional service to the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, he performed that devotional service with the intention to get a kingdom bigger than his father's. He performed devotional service, he did deity worship, he chanted the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya mantra given by his spiritual master Narada Muni. For what purpose? To get a kingdom. That becomes Mishra Bhakti, that becomes mixed devotional service. Devotional service mixed with some desire for some sense gratification. So that's called motivated devotional service. There is a motive. What is the motive? Some personal motive is there. I want to fulfill some personal motive. And for that, I perform devotional service. Another example is Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni also performed 10,000 years. He performed Kriya Yoga. He performed Ashtanga Yoga mixed with devotional service. For what purpose? For getting a son who will be an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. That is also a personal motive. He wanted that I should get a son like this. So this becomes motivated devotional service or devotional service performed with some personal motive. When we say Ahaituki Bhakti, that means no personal motive is involved. I am performing devotional service only to please Krishna. I am not interested in getting some personal benefit. I am not interested in getting some sense gratification. I am doing devotional service so that I can have a nice, peaceful life in this material world. I can get a good job. I can make more money. Whatever I have in my possessions, they should all be protected. Therefore, I am performing devotional service. No. Devotional service is not meant for some material gain or benefit. Devotional service is not performed for gaining liberation from this material world. Devotional service should not be performed for our going back to Godhead. These are all personal motives. Devotional service should be performed only for satisfaction of Krishna. That is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also in his Siksha-ashtaka, last verse, what does he say? Ashlishyava padaratam pinishtumam adarshanan marmahatam karotuva yatha tatha va vidadatu lampato matprananathastu sayeva naparaha. Krishna, you may embrace me or you may reject me. You may choose to make me broken-hearted by not giving your darshan to me. In every condition of life, life after life, you are my only Supreme Lord. What does that mean? Life after life means there is no liberation. I'm not seeking liberation. I'm not even asking that Krishna, you should come and embrace me. You should reciprocate with me. Even that is not there. I don't want anything. I just want that you should be pleased by my devotional service. Whatever pleases you, I will do. What benefit I'm going to get from that, I'm not interested. That is called ahaituki bhakti or kevala bhakti, which we can see in the Vrajavasis. All the Vrajavasis, whether it is Nanda Maharaj, Yashodamai, all the Sakhas of Krishna, or it is all the gopis, all of them perform ahaituki bhakti. They perform kevala bhakti. And this is unique to Goloka Vrindavan. All the Vrajavasis have this unique characteristic of performing ahaituki bhakti to Krishna. And that is why Srimad Bhagavatam also focuses only on that. Ahaituki bhakti. How to develop ahaituki bhakti. How to render ahaituki bhakti devotional service to Krishna. And this is the highest standard of devotional service. If somebody is having some internal motive and rendering devotional service to Krishna, he is also considered a devotee. It's not that such an approach is unfavorable to devotional service. There are many personalities who have performed devotional service mixed with jnana or karma or ashtanga yoga, etc. They are also great personalities. But when you talk of the highest standard of devotional service, then we have to look to the Vrajavasis, who performed ahaituki bhakti without any personal motive. They did not even want to get liberated. They were not even interested in what is going to happen to them after this one, after their whether they'll get liberated or what will happen to them. They are not interested in any of those things. Like there is one instance where once Narada Muni came to Krishna and he asked Krishna that why are your gopis considered the topmost devotees? After all, the gopis, what do they know? They are not well read in the scriptures. They are not big Sanskrit scholars. They are not engaged in studying deeply Vedanta. What do the gopis do? Morning they get up, milk the cows, churn the curds, make butter, cook something for Krishna, clean the house, take care of the elders in the family. This is all that they do. So what is so great about that? About the service they are rendering to you, that they are considered the topmost of all devotees. So Krishna said, okay, I'll give you this one task. You go to some rishis and sages, topmost rishis and sages, who are well read in Vedanta and all those kind of things, and tell them that I am suffering from headache. So they will immediately ask you, so what can we do to relieve Krishna's headache? You tell them, some dust from your feet is required to be applied on Krishna's forehead and his headache will be solved. So Narada Muni said, that's all, no problem, I'll go and get it. He went and approached many sages, many rishis. Whomever he approached, he would tell the same thing, that Krishna is suffering from headache. They would all say, oh, Krishna is suffering from headache. So this was when Krishna was in Dwaraka. Oh, really? So what to do? Is there something we can do to help? So Narada Muni would say, some dust from your feet, if you can take and apply on Krishna's forehead, then Krishna will be relieved of his headache. Then the rishi said, no, how can the Supreme Lord Krishna, his dust from his lotus feet has to decorate our head. Our feet dust, how can it go on? Krishna said, if we do, it's a great offense, it's an aparadha. No, we cannot do this. So like this, Narada Muni went and approached all the sages. Nobody was ready to give. He came back to Krishna and said, this is this one response I got. So Krishna said, okay, go to all the devatas and ask them. So Narada Muni went. He went to Lord Shiva, he went to Brahmaji, he went to Indra, all the devatas he went and asked them. All of them same response. Oh, Supreme Lord, Om Tad Vishnoho Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surayaha. Constantly the devatas are waiting. When will we have darshan of the lotus feet of Krishna? We cannot even have darshan of the lotus feet of Krishna. And you are telling our dust of our feet has to go on his head? Oh, we cannot think of such a thing. Not possible. We don't want to go to hell for doing such an aparadha. All the devatas also refused. Then Narada Muni came back and he told Krishna, this is what is happening. Then Krishna told Narada Muni, okay, now go to the gopis and tell them. Narada Muni went and approached the gopis in Vraja. And he told, at the moment the gopis saw Narada Muni, they offered all their respects. Narada Muni said, I'm coming from Dwaraka. The gopis said, oh, you are coming from Dwaraka. Are you carrying any news of Krishna? How is he doing? Is he well? How is everything in Dwaraka? So Narada Muni said, everything is fine, but Krishna is suffering from headache. So the gopis all got so much disturbed, agitated. Krishna is suffering from headache. Oh, what to do? What to do? Are there no doctors? Nobody to take care of him? Then Narada Muni said, no, a very simple solution is there. Krishna is told, little dust from your feet if he gets, apply it on his head, he'll become all right. Immediately the gopis started taking their feet and scraping out all the dust and collected so much dust and gave it to Narada Muni. Please take this. Immediately go, apply it on Krishna's forehead. Now Narada Muni was surprised. He said, okay, I can take this and apply, but don't you think it will be an aparad? Your feet dust is going on his head. What will happen to you? You will all go to hell for this. The gopis replied, let us go to hell. No problem. Krishna's headache should be solved. Don't worry about us. So you see, then Narada Muni realized, oh, this is why the gopis are the topmost devotees. They are not bothered about where they are going, what is happening to them. For them, only one thing, Krishna's welfare and how Krishna's pleasure should be taken care of. That's all. They are not bothered about anything else. So this is the standard of Ahaituki Bhakti or Kevala Bhakti. And this is the kind of bhakti that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Shad Goswamis and all the Acharyas coming in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya are teaching us. Bhakti has to be performed only for the pleasure of Krishna. We are not even interested in liberation. Whereas you look at all other Sampradayas, all other Acharyas, they will tell you, perform devotional service so that you can become liberated. Whereas our Sampradaya, we are not even interested in liberation. Salokya sarshti samipya aikyatvam diyamanamapin na grinnanti. Even if somebody offers to the devotees in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya that please take Salokya, Sarshti, Samipya, whichever type of the four liberations you want, you please take. Diyamanamapi. Even if they are offered to the devotees, they say we are not interested. Na grinnanti, we are not interested. Unless Krishna wants us to take this liberation for his pleasure, then we will do. Otherwise, we are not interested in liberation also. So this is the standard of devotional service, the highest standard of devotional service, which has been revealed to us by the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas. This is very unique to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, and this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also revealed, that this is the topmost platform of devotional service. And that is why, although the Vrajavasis, they are simple cowherd people, they are not very great, eloquent Vedantists like that, but still amongst all the devotees, when you take all the devotees, all the different categories of devotees, they are considered the topmost. So, basically, Ahaituki Bhakti means rendering devotional service to Krishna without any personal motive, only for the pleasure of Krishna. That's how we have understood. Is that okay? Anybody else, please? Yes, please. You can speak into the mic.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, in Srimad Bhagavatam, we have that, there are 5 things that are rejected in Kali Yuga, like Ashwamedham, Gavalambam, Sannyasam, Palapaitrukam. So, although we understand the 4 of those, but Sannyasam we still follow in Kali Yuga. How do we understand that, even though it is rejected in Kali Yuga?
Yeah. So in Kali Yuga, sannyasa is forbidden because to follow the strict principles of sannyasa is very, very difficult in Kali Yuga. Therefore, because what we have to understand is in the Varnashrama system, there used to be 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. 4 Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and 4 Ashramas, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. And for the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas especially, it was a compulsory for everybody, whoever may take up brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, any one of the ashramas, ultimately they all have to take sannyas. A person may decide not to take up grihastha ashram. He may remain a brahmachari and then directly take up vanaprastha. Or he may become a grihastha, but that too only for a limited period, only for 25 years. After that, panchashordhvam vanam brajet. The moment he touches 50 years of age, he has to take a vanaprastha, and then after 60 years of age, he has to take sannyas. It was compulsory. Everyone had to take sannyas. So that culture, of course, what has happened is, even today in the rural areas, that culture still exists. One of our devotees, one of our temple devotees, he is from a small village in Uttar Pradesh. He was serving in our Vrindavan Chandrodaya Mandir, Vrindavan temple. For quite a number of years, he had been serving in the temple. One day he came and told me that there is some issue, I have to go to the home for a few days and I'll go and come. He went home and came back after a few days. So I asked him, is everything okay? Everything is going all right? He said, actually what happened was, my father turned 50 years. The moment he turned 50 years, he left home and went outside the village. So we all went and met him and asked him what has happened. He said, no, this is the system. Now I'm turned 50. Now you all take care of your family. I will not be part of the family anymore. Now I'm staying outside the village. I've given up home. Now I want to practice spiritual life. So you see, even today, the vestiges of that culture still exist in some of the rural parts of India. In the cities and all, we cannot even imagine this. So, but then, in the Vedic culture, it was a very common thing. Everybody must take sannyas. Sannyas was compulsory. In Kali Yuga, what happens is, because the people are not strong enough to follow the rules and regulations of sannyasa dharma, therefore, in Kali Yuga it is said, sannyasa should not be taken for the common mass of people. It's not meant as a general practice that everyone who turns 60 years, they have to take sannyas. So only those who are really powerful and capable of following the rules and regulations of sannyasa dharma strictly, only such people should take sannyas. And so therefore, for the sake of preaching, for the sake of spreading the message of Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself took sannyas. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was a brahmachari, directly he took sannyas. Srila Prabhupada took grihasthashram and then he took sannyas. So, personalities such as these great devotees who are capable of following the rules of sannyasa dharma can still take sannyasa for the sake of preaching. But otherwise, for the common mass of people, it is not recommended that, like in the olden ages, everybody must take sannyas. It simply means that compulsoriness is removed. Better, unless and until you are confident that you have the capability, the strength to follow all the rules and regulations of sannyasa dharma, don't take sannyas. Better not to take sannyas. That is the meaning of that statement. So Prabhupada also gave sannyas to many of his disciples for the sake of preaching work. But all those sannyasis were not the kind of sannyasis who used to exist in the Varnashrama Dharma. The Varnashrama Dharma sannyasis are completely different, this one. There are 4 stages, Kutichaka, Bahodaka, Parivrajaka and Paramahamsa. So Kutichaka means, first stage, he stays outside the village and the food every day comes from the home. Next, Bahodaka, what he does? Bahu, he goes to many places. He goes to many houses, Madhukari. Every house he will take a little, he will not go to his own house. He'll go to other houses, little, whatever they give, he'll collect and he will have his food that day. Then Parivrajaka, after that what happens? He leaves his home, he leaves his village. And then he goes village to village through the dense forests, so that he can totally depend only on Krishna. Because when you are going through the dense forest, there will be so many wild animals. There will be bears, there will be lions, tigers, wolves, jackals, etc. So many wild animals will be there. And The sannyasi is supposed to walk through all these forests all by himself, so that he can constantly depend upon the Supreme Lord, Paramatma within his heart, and he can realize that I am not alone. Constantly, I am being accompanied by the Paramatma. So to learn dependence on Paramatma and to realize the presence of the Paramatma within the heart, the sannyasi follows this. And then after that, he comes to the stage of Paramahamsa, where he stays in one place and his only work is devotional service to Krishna. So these are all the different stages of sannyasa. So today, if somebody has to take sannyas and then go to the forest to forest by walk you go, all these are all not practical things. It's not, people don't have that kind of courage and that kind of dependence on Krishna. So Prabhupada gave sannyas, not that kind of sannyas which was followed in the Varnashrama system, but for the sake of preaching, the disciples were given sannyas so that they could go out and spread the message to the people. So that's how we understand that sannyas is forbidden in Kali Yuga. Is that okay?
Yes. So in similar lines of what Prabhuji has asked, and Mahabharata question, Prabhu, like Mahatma Vidura is actually cursed, Yamadharmaraj is cursed as Mahatma Vidura.
Yeah.
And also we find that at times Yamadharmaraj appears to Yudhishthira Maharaj by chance.
Yes.
So do we understand in the same lens that you explained?
Yes, that also, Yamaraj was performing that pastime of, it is said that during the time when he incarnated as Vidura, the Yamaloka was devoid of Yamaraj, and somebody called Aryama was presiding on behalf of Yamaraj. So Yamaraj was not there in Yamaloka at that time. But still, whenever somebody prayed for him, like Kunti Devi prayed for Yamaraj, and that is how Yudhishthira was born. So at that time, in such cases, Yamaraj personally appeared, while Vidura was manifested as a separate personality, separately. So these kind of things are possible for such great personalities, even Devatas also. For them also it is possible. That's how we understand.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
As you mentioned, we are part and parcel of, and we are expansion of Super Soul. And is that my understanding correct, Prabhuji?
Yeah, we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Yes.
So if you are expansions of Super Soul, why we are in different modes like goodness, passion, and ignorance? Why not all the souls behave like Super Soul?
Yeah. So when it is said that we living entities, the jivas are expansions of Krishna, we have to understand that we are all expansions of the Shaktis of Krishna. Because Shakti, Shaktamatayor, Abhinnatvad. There is no difference between the Shakti and Shaktiman. At the same time, there is a difference. So, the Lord is the Shaktiman. He is the possessor of all Shaktis. And there are many, many innumerable Shaktis that He possesses. Out of all the Shaktis that the Supreme Lord Krishna possesses, there are three broad Shaktis classifications. What are those? They are Antaranga Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti, and Tatastha Shakti. This material manifestation is a manifestation of Krishna's Bahiranga Shakti. And when Krishna incarnates, when Krishna expands as Paramatma or as Vishnu or as Narayana or as Matsyavatara, etc., those are all incarnations, those are all expansions of His Antaranga Shakti. And when it comes to us, we are all expansions of His Tatastha Shakti. Now the nature of Antaranga Shakti, all those personalities who are partaking of the Antaranga Shakti of Krishna, whether it is Paramatma, whether it is Vishnu, Narayana, whoever it is, the characteristic is they will never come under the influence of the three modes of material nature. They are never subject to the influence of material Prakriti. Whereas Tatastha Shakti, marginal potency, means the characteristic is it can come under the influence of the material nature. So, it can come under the influence of the Bahiranga Shakti of Krishna. Whereas Antaranga Shakti can never come under the Bahiranga Shakti, can never come under the control of Bahiranga Shakti. Tatastha Shakti means it will be either under the control of Antaranga Shakti or under the control of Bahiranga Shakti. Because we are all the expansions of the Tatastha Shakti of Krishna. Therefore, we have the tendency to come under the influence of the three modes of material nature. Whereas, when we look at Kurma Avatara, Narasimha Avatara, etc., they are all expansions of the Antaranga Shakti of Krishna. So, therefore, they will never come under the influence of the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So, that is the differentiation between Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. We are all belonging to Jiva Tattva, Vishnu Tattva is all belonging to another category. Both of them cannot be compared. The Vishnu Tattva are always controllers of Prakriti, of material nature. All the jivas are controlled by either the Yogamaya, which is the spiritual energy, or by the material energy, which is Prakriti. That is how we understand. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, going back to the earlier question about sannyasa. So third stage of sannyasa where you talked about, okay, going to the forest, trying to develop the dependence on the Lord. So we all can't go down that path, at least at this point. So how can we practice that mode of dependence? At the end of the day, it all matters. I mean, as long as we maintain that mode, I think, at least, I think we stay in the path of Krishna consciousness. So in our lives, how can we practice that mode of dependence, mode of sannyas, so that we can progress in Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, what you said is right. Externally taking sannyas alone does not mean that one will develop that mood. That is why Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita that sannyasa is not the only way. There are other ways also of developing that mood of dependence on Krishna. So, if we stick to the path of devotional service given by Prabhupada, if we continue to read the books of Prabhupada, take the association of devotees, render devotional service in the temple, that itself will develop that mood. The Prabhupada's whole system of sadhana and the devotional service in the temples is designed to cultivate and to enhance that mood of dependence on Krishna. So, one way to develop that mood of dependence is to take the path of sannyas and all those kind of things. The other path is direct rendering of devotional service, bhakti to Krishna. When we render devotional service to Krishna, especially Sankirtana Yajna and chanting Krishna's holy names, purification of the heart happens. And when the purification of the heart happens, what happens is we develop that devotional service, that mood of total dependence of Krishna. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janaityashu Vairagyam Janam Cha Yad Ahaitukam. When we render devotional service to Krishna, automatically Vairagya will come in the heart. Vairagya means renunciation. And one aspect of Vairagya is also to give up our dependence on our material arrangements for our maintenance and our activities in the material world. So even for that, the simple performance of devotional service, beginning with chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and coming to the temple and participating in the deity worship, will purify our heart and gradually bring out that dependence on the Supreme Lord. So the process is very simple. We simply follow Prabhupada's instructions. We read Prabhupada's books, chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, 16 malas, follow the four regulative principles, attend the sadhana program. That eventually it will generate that bhakti. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also it is said in the 11th canto, Bhaktya Sanjataya Bhaktya. When we perform sadhana bhakti, our heart is not pure. We have so many contaminations. We depend on our own material arrangements and we are not totally dependent on Krishna. That is our stage. So that is called the stage of sadhana bhakti. Bhaktya Sanjataya Bhaktya. When we perform that sadhana bhakti, what it will do is Sanjataya, it will generate Kevala Bhakti in the heart. We have to simply keep following the instructions of Prabhupada. That's all. Simple.
So, I mean, that brings another question, Prabhu. So, how can we work like a machine, consistently day in and day out, doing that those simple things that Prabhupada has given. How can we do that consistently with enthusiasm?
So, to do it consistently, Prabhupada has created an organization where we can do it in the association of other devotees. We take strength from each other. One example, one oft quoted example is that of birds who migrate from one nation to another nation. Sometimes what happens is Russia and all those places, during winters, you'll find birds migrating from there, coming into India. So, these birds cross across continents. They have to fly across oceans. They have to fly across mountains. And when they do this, they always do it in flocks. You will see always the birds flying in flocks when they are migrating. Why do they do it in flocks? Because individually, if they try, mostly they will not make it. When they are going in flocks, what happens is one bird is flapping his wing, he is feeling tired, he feels, no, I cannot go further. But then he sees the bird ahead of him and he feels, okay, that guy is flapping his wings, let me flap a little more, little more, little more. That way the whole bird is able to cross across continents. So this is the power of association. I'll give you another personal example. We have time till 12:20, 9 more minutes, okay. One more personal example. Some years back, about 3-4 years back, I'd gone to Badrinath and I'd gone to Yamunotri. Yamunotri and Gangotri, not Badrinath. I couldn't go to Badrinath because I went in around October. So by the time we finished Yamunotri and Gangotri, it was already snowing in Badrinath, so we couldn't go. What had happened was, my elderly parents had come and they wanted to go to Yamunotri and Gangotri. I also accompanied them. And my father was at that time, he was nearly 80. I think he was 79 or 80 years old. My mother was also about 60 plus. We went to Yamunotri, and now Gangotri is very easy. You go there and you walk a few steps and then you are there, you park the vehicle and then you have to walk for about maybe 200-300 meters. Then you will come to that temple. How many of you been to Yamunotri, Gangotri? Anybody has been? Okay, so you will know. So you walk a little 200-300 meters and you come to the place. Of course, Gomukh is still further, but at least where the temple and all is there, that's very easy to access and we can take a dip there and all that. Of course, the water is very cold. So, but then Yamunotri is not like that. Yamunotri is very tough. Several kilometers you have to go by, either walk, and it's not an easy walk because it's not just some plain land, it's mountain. You have to climb the whole mountain and then come to the valley where Yamunaji is coming. It's a very steep climb. So generally what people do is, they take either a doli. Doli means a pallaki kind of thing, which 4 or 5 people will carry. You sit inside the pallaki. These are all local people. They are used to every day going up and down many times. If you and I go, we will not be able to cover it on foot. It's so steep and so difficult. Another way is to get on a horse. There are people who bring horses. There are some women, they will take the doli like that. So my wife and my mother, they took a doli. My father and I sat on 2 separate horses. He was sitting on one horse, I was sitting on another horse. So we went all the way up, steep climb, and all the time you have to be leaning forward because the climb is so steep. We went there, Yamunotri, had darshan and all that, and we came down. And climbing down is again very steep. So the horse is always jumping different steps and coming down. So it's not at all easy. Halfway down, I was holding on with great effort because not used to horse riding, number one. And number two, this is a steep climb and then steep descent. So halfway down, I thought, I cannot do this anymore. I have to get off. Cannot sit on the horse anymore. And you cannot walk down also. I'm stuck here. I thought I cannot do. It was too difficult. Practically, my thighs were all paining and it was too much of a tapasya. I thought, I cannot do it. Let me get off. Then I saw ahead of me, the horse is going, my father is seated on that. Then I looked at him, 80-year-old person, he is sitting, and I am 40-something. Why I can't sit? So I thought, okay, let me hold on. Finally, we came down. So I walked up to my father and I said, See, if it had not been for you today, I would not have made it down. I was seeing you and seeing you holding on to the saddle and the horse. Somehow I held on to my horse, otherwise I would have got off. You know what he told me? He looked at me and he said, I was looking at you and I was holding on, otherwise I would have got off. So, seeing him, I was holding on. Seeing me, he is holding on. Otherwise, if we had individually gone, both of us would not have made it. Halfway going up only, we would have got off. So you can see how this principle works very strongly. When we render devotional service in the association of other devotees, we get strength to perform our devotional service even more strongly. Therefore, in Kali Yuga, the Acharyas like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Srila Prabhupada thought of organized way of performing devotional service. In the olden ages, there never used to be any organization where people would come together and perform devotional service. It would all be individual. Bharat Maharaj took sannyas, went to the forest, all alone he was doing devotional service. Dhruva Maharaj, when he took sannyas, went to the forest, all alone he devotional service. Even in his childhood, 5-year-old child, he went to the forest all alone. He went to Vrindavan, went to Madhuvan, and on the Dhruva Tila he sat and performed his tapasya. Karda Mumuni, all alone, in near Ahmedabad, that Bindu Sarovar is there, he sat there and did his tapasya. So, in the Vedic times, everybody individually would perform their tapasya because they were determined and very strong in their convictions. In Kali Yuga, people's determination is not so strong. Therefore, the Acharyas have devised a transcendental mechanism of having an organization where many devotees can come together and practice devotional service together. That gives us strength. We feed off the strength of others and we also inspire others to perform our sadhana nicely. Therefore, constant association with devotees is very important. We have to associate with devotees, we have to read Prabhupada's books, and we rigidly follow the principles of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, whatever fixed number of rounds it is possible for us. Ideally 16, if we are not able to do 16, at least whatever vrata we have taken, whatever vow we have taken, this many malas of Hare Krishna Mantra I will chant without fail. As long as we stick to these things, then we will have the strength to be able to perform our sadhana nicely. Otherwise, all alone if we want to practice, very tough. Not impossible. Not impossible. There are some people who even now have the determination to be able to continue their devotional service even if they are all alone. But not everybody can do it. For the mass of people, it is better to perform devotional service in the association of others. That will give us strength, that will give us conviction, that will keep our faith going. This is the method which has been devised by the Acharyas for the Kali Yuga. Is that okay?
Thank you so much.
So we have about 2 minutes. At least one of the Matajis should put forth something. You're all sitting silently. Anybody has anything? Any quick question? You're not a Mataji, sir.
But they are not taking the chance, so I thought let me take.
Okay, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I'm a new devotee, basically. I just started my practice here about 2 years back. But still, I have not reached a level, I'm pretty sure. But it's not a question, basically, it's a clarification. I wouldn't take much of time. We see Krishna idols and Radha idols in many forms and shapes, basically.
We see whom?
Krishna idol and as well as Radha Maharani's idols in different form and shape in different states of India and as well as in other parts of US too.
Yeah.
Actually, how they look, what is that perception? Why they are not having the similarity between all the idols?
Okay. So, why the different deities look different? That is the question. You see, the Lord, when He incarnates into this material world, the deity is also an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Archa Avatara. So the Lord, when he incarnates into this material world, he can take different forms because he wants to reciprocate with his devotees like that. If the same form of Radha and Krishna is there everywhere, for the devotees, when they go to, say, Vrindavan, Bihariji temple, they see the Lord differently. Radha Ramanji has a different form. You go to Govind Devji, different form. So the Lord gives pleasure to his devotees by manifesting his forms differently. But when we come on the pure devotional platform, we'll be able to see the original form of Krishna and Radharani. So that original form of Krishna in the spiritual world is one only. It's not many. But for the sake of his Leela, the Lord will manifest differently in different places. So that is his Leela. That is his pastime. That's how we understand it. Is that okay? All right. So we'll stop here. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Gopinath ji ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.